Wes Goldberg, quick cold open for you today before we get into a litany of topics, including NBA trades during the finals. The Steph Curry recently went viral. I don't know if you saw this for singing and wearing like a hat, like a very specific like old dude hat at a Benson Boone concert. The question is like Steph Curry. Is Steph Curry cool? Like I say this thinking LeBron also is not cool. Like I don't know how many of like our like elder statesman 4-year-old guys are actually cool anymore.
Right. Well, it's tough, man, because I'm dealing with this in my own life where I thought I used to be cool, but just because I'm a millennial, I'm the same person, but I've somehow become uncool now.
Yeah.
I saw a TikTok the other day, which I don't generally judge most of my feelings about myself based on things I see on TikTok, but like they were asked, these girls were asked, what year do you have to be born to be considered old? And they said 1997, and I felt like I wanted to jump off a bridge.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I will say this: going to a Benson Boone concert, even
Tough look,
as
man.
a millennial, I know that that's not cool.
He's on the list of things that I keep like I don't have like an actual physical list, Wes, but I have a list of things in my head that I just don't understand anymore. Benson Boone's on the list.
No, Benson Boone is kind of generally thought of as corny now.
Okay.
So he's got the one TikTok song.
And he flips, and he does flips. I know he flips.
He did one backflip, but he
Okay.
apparently had a very bad set at Coachella. And the backflipping veneer kind of went away.
Okay. Yeah, but he's one of the things that I just can't. I haven't wrapped my mind around. Tate McRae also on the. It's a lot of music stuff that I'm just like I don't quite get it.
I'm with you, man. Like this is where I'm fully millennial, dude. I miss the good old days. I don't understand Tate McRae. I don't understand Benson Boone. Frankly, I don't understand consuming music via TikTok.
Oh, I don't either. People consume
sped up
movies via
music.
TikTok, and I that should be illegal. Like that, we've we've lost the plot.
Yeah, there's any number. Like this is so old of me, man. I can't believe we're going down this path. But like
Wes, I'm bald as shit.
I
so
love
it's
hip hop
okay.
so much,
Yeah,
and I generally don't understand. I don't understand most of it. Like this melodical hip hop thing. I miss bars. I'm sorry.
Clips. We're gonna do an hour pod, a live pod on the new Clips album coming out. Is that where we're headed?
Can we?
Yeah,
I'm so
can't
excited
wait.
for that.
I haven't been to a rap show in a long time, and I'm seeing Clips, and I can't wait.
Good for you. Is being
I'm gonna be
excited
the whitest
about the
person there.
Clips, the new Clips album, like being excited for like the Rolling Stones reunion, like for our parents?
It's like with when like Springsteen became like a nostalgia act for like parents when they were in like their 40s or 50s, like in the 90s probably. Yeah.
Springsteen came out with a record pretty late in his career, and I remember my uncle was so excited about it. I think it was that Radio Nowhere record. Wasn't that him? And I just was like, this old guy, like, who cares? And I feel like when it was Radio Nowhere, and it came out in 2007, 10 years after being old, after you were considered old.
Yeah, but you can be like, kid, you heard the beat that Pharrell produced for Grindin'? You kidding me?
They'd be like, "What are you even saying, old man? Who cares?" Pharrell, the guy with the hat, he did the music for that Gremlins movie or whatever. You're like, yeah, that one.
Yeah, he produced one of the greatest beats of all time for Grindin'. Yeah, but Steph Curry, Benson Boone, officially like reminder that Steph Curry is retiring soon. I think because what that told me because I saw him in this hat. It was also the hat.
Basketball player is officially
the
old.
hat. The hat also really did not work.
What hat?
Look, I will find this clip for you unless you
now.
find it first. But this hat it's just like the exact hat that like if you wear that hat, you're old. It's over.
Is Boone spelled with an E at the end?
I think so.
Steph Curry. Oh no.
Yeah, this hat's it's pretty bad
So
hat.
did he think that was like some sort of cowboy? That's a Panama hat.
Yeah, the Panama hat is not a good.
That is very Miami. He's just missing like the linen pants and the cigar.
So 30. Are you doing a 35-minute pod after this? Getting why Steph Curry is going to be here in the summer? You just connecting the dots with the Panama hat. He's going to be. Is he playing chess anytime soon? What are we doing here? But that hat
Chess or dominoes?
Dominoes. Sorry. Apologies. New York is just chess. That hat is only, I think, wearable if you're like 65 and above.
That hat is not wearable. That hat is wearable in an ironic way only.
Yeah, but at a Benson Boone concert singing with your phone out is just like Steph.
I think Steph thought it was a cowboy hat.
I need beat journalism to be back so we could get a statement.
I want to know what the shopkeeper or whoever it is that schlepped him that hat was telling him.
Or did his stylist be like, "Hey, we got a good fit for you"?
What, is his stylist that works for Under Armour or whatever?
I mean, all NBA player. I feel like he's got someone on the payroll.
Yeah, of course. He's definitely.
Someone's
he is the quintessential millennial NBA player. Like, wasn't his sponsorship with Express?
Yeah.
He had an Express deal. Like, that is the most millennial mall brand because it was only popular for us. Mm-hmm. It wasn't popular before us. That was like Macy's. That was like our parents.
It was like I had teachers that were a little older than me when I was in high school that were in their like late 20s that wore Express, and I was like, oh, that's what adults wear.
Right. It was Express for us, and now Express is like aggressively not cool now.
Yeah. But Abercrombie's back.
Abercrombie's back, baby. Don't tell. I'm just waiting for Hollister to come back, and then we are right back on top, Chris.
Yeah. Then we're gonna be like Sum 41, and like we're getting a Clips tour. We got the Carter 5 up. Maybe everything does come back.
Carter 5 came back. It wasn't great.
It wasn't great. It's not what you wanted. All right, on today's show, Thunder in control.
That was good.
Jalen Williams is back. Desmond Bane for how many picks, and maybe Durant staying after all? All coming up on the Just Basketball show. Let's go.
Oh, a spectacular move by Michael Jordan. Oh, LeBron James with no regard for human life.
What is up, everyone? Chris Manning, Wes Goldberg here on the Just Basketball show. Not necessarily a Benson Boone Steph Curry podcast. If you haven't already, please not yet. Please subscribe, rate, review on your podcast platform of choice. Hit that notification bell if you have not already. And we're all, as always, powered by our friends at BetMGM.
If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code JustBasketball. You'll get up to $1,500 in a first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android. Sign up using the code JustBasketball. Deposit at least $10. Place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets. If the bet loses, just make sure to use the bonus code JustBasketball when you sign up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older to wager. Terms and conditions apply.
Wes, let's start with Game 5 here because this to me was the Thunder. This became their series. Pacers made a little late run, but felt more like Game 1 to me than the rest of the series. Thunder very much in control. And I want to talk specifically about Jalen Williams as a pullout here in a little bit, but he was at the front of this. It was him and SGA who were dominant in this game. And then Haliburton, I know he's hurt, doesn't have a field goal made in this game. Thunder, I think, just reasserted fully that this is the best team in the league, fully confident now. If there was a little window there where if the Pacers hold on at home in Game 4, I think they're winning the title. And they're going to go home, I think, this summer ruining this. If they're up 3-1, they're probably I think they're getting through this and winning. But because they kind of blow it at the end and the Thunder build on that and just kind of roll away within Game 5, this feels like Game 6 might be the very much end here when we get to Thursday.
That window was when they were up 10 in the third quarter of Game 4, right?
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to put it. I think I agree with you. Like, yes, Indiana is walking away from that wondering what if we hold on. But at the same time, I do think that takes too, and I know that's not what you're trying to do here, but I think that even from Indiana's perspective would take too much credit away from Oklahoma City. Because what we saw the Thunder do in the fourth quarter of Game 4 and essentially the entirety of Game 5 was look like the dominant team that they had been for 80 games prior. I thought that Oklahoma City's defense wasn't as strong as it had been over the regular season and most of the playoffs for most of the first 4 games of these finals. And then in the fourth quarter of Game 4 and in all of Game 5, it just felt like they turned it up. And I didn't know if it was Indiana just being an awesome offense, not turning the ball over, taking care of things. And certainly that's got to be part of it, right? You have to give the Pacers credit. But it just feels like the Thunder figured it out. It feels like the Thunder figured it out at the end of Game 4 and into Game 5, and they were just playing with a swagger and that defensive intensity that kind of only comes when you know what's coming, right? Where you can kind of play with that all-out aggression. I just think the Thunder figured it out. And also Haliburton got hurt, and that's got to be part of this equation too. So at the same time, you could say, well, what if you're the Pacers? But then that doesn't mean that Haliburton doesn't get hurt in Game 5. If Haliburton's injured for the final 3 games of this series, the Pacers are losing this series regardless of what happens in Game 4. Even if they go up 3-1, they're probably still losing this series if Haliburton is hobbled, and Haliburton is hobbled right now.
Just such an interesting statistical game too. Like there's one thing that goes really heavily in Oklahoma City's favor, which is the turnover battle again flips on its head, and Oklahoma City gets back to that recipe that made them dominate all year. Nearly a quarter of Indiana's possessions end in a turnover. You're not winning a basketball game, particularly when at this level, if your turnover rate is that high. Oklahoma City takes care of the ball. Both teams got to the rim way more than they had in a couple games, both up near 50%, very on the high end of things. And then Oklahoma City was insane from 3, particularly on corner threes, which for them is not really a thing for them historically, but 21% of their shots, fairly close to Indiana's, shot better from them in 3 by about 8% on about the same volume overall. Like those two things, like there's one that is like clearly replicable and I think indicates a swagger thing, and they also ran a little bit hot plus Haliburton, and it's like, okay, Indiana, you're kind of screwed at that point. It also just feels like, Wes, like to your point about the swagger, it feels like this was, I think I overthought this in retrospect, just like the composure and needing to build it. It feels like the Thunder grew into the series, have really grown into the series as it has gone on. Like Dagnall, I think with how he's coached it, I think with how Shea has been kind of here the whole time. Like he's been uber consistent, I felt, for the most part. But Jalen Williams has grown into this. Chet has grown into this. Like all their role guys, for the most part, I think have looked more comfortable, with the exception of like Kayson Wallace. But like you're like, oh right, Caruso knows what to do here, and he's playing exactly how to expect him to. Where Indiana has like hit a ceiling, and then the guy that stirs everything for them is banged up. It's just, it feels like the Thunder, with a little bit of luck, because that's how it works, have just kind of grown into, oh yeah, this is the most terrifying team in the league. And I bet you the day the season ends and they're champions, they're going to be the betting favorites again to do this again next year.
At the risk of oversimplifying it, it feels like the Thunder found their identity as soon as they went back to the original starting lineup with Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren in the front court. And again, that is a gross oversimplification of things, but it does also speak to the fact that they were trying to do something at the start of the series, found out it wasn't really working to the degree that they wanted it to work, and then they just went back to who it is that they were. And there's something to be said about just saying, hey, this is our starting 5. These are our looks. This is our rotation. Let's just go back. Muscle memory this thing. Let's go back to what we're doing. And it feels like the Thunder just went back to what they were doing. They scored 32 points off of turnovers in Game 5. They had a 23-point advantage in points off of turnovers in that game. That's the Thunder, right? And again, Haliburton being hurt, not being as impactful with the ball in his hands just because he was hobbled. That's a big part of this. But yeah, the Thunder have looked like the Thunder for most of the last 2 games here. And I don't know about you, Chris, but it feels like the series is over. It feels like it's over.
I think the number one reason I think the series feels over is Jalen Williams, so let's go to him.
Okay.
This is the kind of performance from him where he has 40 in a finals game and plays with a confidence. Like, and the last shot he hit in particular was a mid-range, like step back, like pure playoff shot from one of your lead guys. This is the kind of game, West, that feels like it's not only going to catapult him the rest of this, like however long the series goes, but I think feels like a catapult for him going forward. Like this is the kind of performance that I think like you have in your head now. That like I think this is the breakthrough to the next level for him. This is what that game felt like to me. He's been a guy dating back to last year against Dallas when they lost that I've had some questions about that. I'd earmarked him on this show that if they lost, I'm putting him in the trade machine next day and I'm offering him for Giannis, or I'm doing something with him because maybe he hit a ceiling and you need to retool a little bit and get someone more proven, more offensive oriented. I think he has now hit like a level where he's just gotten better and he's evolving into that next phase he's broken through that wall, it feels like. And if he's this, and like he can keep building on this, plus I think Chet will keep building on this, it's just like good luck. This is the kind of performance I think you needed to see. Like they could have won the title and not had Jalen Williams do this, and I still would have maybe had some questions about them in the roster construction, but you obviously just run it back. This is like the borderline all-star, all-NBA potential lock-in kind of. That's where we're, I think, going to be heading with J-Dub now.
He's got a bag, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's the signature scoop shot. Yeah, he's got that. He can finish at the rim with on either side of the rim with that scoop shot. It's a skill shot for a guy who feels like he's not really a skill player, if you know what I mean. And I don't even mean that as a pejorative or anything. He's built like a tank. There was possessions in Game 5 where he's being used like a halfback, right? Where Hartenstein will set the screen right in the middle of the floor, and he just comes off of him like a one-cut running back right down through the A gap. And he's so strong and so fast and has such a good first step that you almost forget how skilled he is. And he's really developed that scoop shot. So you combine that with the fact that he can get downhill, and he did that so many times in Game 5. But really at the beginning of Game 5, it wasn't that stuff that got him going. He got in rhythm with dunks and layups in that first quarter. His first 5 made field goals were either dunks or layups, stuff at the rim. And he's doing it off of these cuts, slot cuts, back cuts, just well-timed cuts off of weird angles from different spots, deep on the floor, low on the floor, wherever. He's got great timing on it. So when I say Jalen Williams has a bag, it's all of it, right? It's not the Kyrie Irving dribble move bag, but it's I could score, I could pull up from 3, I could pull up from mid-range, I can get downhill and finish at the basket, I can dunk, I could do the scoop layup from both sides of the rim, I could cut, I could spot up. He's developed into this 3-level, all-around, awesome, complementary scorer, right? He's has moments of being able to run the offense and stuff like that, and that's awesome, and it is such a relief to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, obviously, but Oklahoma City's best moments are obviously when Shai is on the court, bending the defense in one direction, and then Jalen Williams just breaking it with one of those other kind of moves.
Did you feel like you knew he had this bag in him?
No.
I didn't either.
No, and he was bad in the playoffs last year, and he's slowly been developing this thing. One of his comps all the time is Jaylen Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's better offensively than Jaylen Brown is.
His dribble is like a little more fluid, I think,
Yes.
where Jalen is more. Jalen has, I think, more of that physical, like it's a little bit stronger, a little bit more physical, a little bit more kind of bully ball to him. J-Dub's smoother. He is.
Jaylen Brown is very much like a 2 dribbles, push a button.
Yes.
And Jalen Williams has a little bit more, to your point, he's got a little bit more wiggle to him.
Yes.
The 2022 draft is fascinating.
I would read a book about the 2022 draft with the retrospect of of how you process everything like during the pandemic, because I think we all know, Wes. I was covering the Cavs at the time. You weren't still covering the Heat. I think we were covering the Warriors.
I was Warriors that year. Yeah.
Okay, so both were covering teams that had high draft picks. I cannot imagine.
No, I'm sorry. That's you're thinking 2021. I think I'm talking about 2022, the Jalen Williams draft.
Oh, sorry. You're right.
That's the Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren draft.
Oh, yes. You're right. You're right.
Let me read you Jalen Williams.
I don't want to book about that draft. I want to book about the COVID draft.
Yeah, I was like, you want to book about this draft? The top 3 was really interesting. Everybody thought it was going to be Jabari Smith Jr. to Orlando at the number 1 pick, and then they kind of swerve in a way that doesn't really happen in the NBA today. Mm-hmm. And they took Banchero, and they had Banchero their number 1 guy all along. So they actually did the thing most teams now would be like, hey, we want Banchero, or we want Jabari Smith. Do you want to trade the pick to go get him? And maybe that's a little bit of what they were doing, but they were kind of locked in on Paolo the entire time. Jalen Williams goes 12 in that draft. Let me read you who goes ahead of him. Paolo Banchero, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr., Keegan Murray, Jaden Ivey, Benedict Mathurin, Shaedon Sharp, Dyson Daniels, Jeremy Sohan, Johnny Davis, remember him? Usman Jang, and then Jalen Williams. So Oklahoma City trades up and gets Usman Jang too before they take Jalen Williams.
Who's just like gonna at some point just like float off their books and just not matter anymore.
And it's fine. Like they
Yeah.
moved multiple picks for him, and it doesn't matter.
I will tell you now, Wes. This is coming up. This will come up later. That's a tease.
Ousmane Dieng?
No, the picks thing.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about it.
I was like, how many Ousmane Dieng segments do we have?
Yeah, actually, that's who the Magic should have traded 5 picks for. Is Ousmane Dieng.
Redo this draft. Where does Jalen Williams go? Right, he's behind Paolo, probably, definitely. Right,
Yes.
behind Chet. I think still.
He's got better production to date,
He's a better player than Chet Holmgren is right now.
and probably will be next year at the very least. Chet is in an interesting spot where we've talked about this in the show before. His path to like the next level is harder here than it would be if he was on like 29 other teams, because there's just like an infrastructure there where like it's hard to. Now, granted, post title might be easier just to do this, but it's harder just to like let him just go fully and embrace his full self when you have SGA and then Jalen Williams doing this. Like it's hard, especially on the offensive side. I think it's hard just to give him all of that.
Okay, so that's where we are. I think that's it, right? I think you take Jalen Williams over Jabari Smith. You take him over Keegan Murray, over Ivy, over Mathurin, over Sharp, over Daniels. I don't think anybody else is really a part of this conversation. Tari Eason goes 17 to Houston. Obviously, you're taking Jalen Williams over him. Walker Kessler, 22. You're taking Jalen Williams over him. Yeah, that's Andrew Nembhard at 31. Andrew Nembhard probably goes 4th behind Jalen Williams, right? Behind Jalen Williams and Chet, depending on what order you put that in. So, yeah, I mean, it's a huge hit for them, in other words. And, you know, like you look at guys who are 24 and under, Jalen Williams, 24 years old. It's Anthony Edwards, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Paolo Banchero, LaMelo Ball, Victor Wembanyama, Zion Williamson, Franz Wagner, Jalen Williams, Jalen Green, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Jalen Johnson, Alperen Şengün. Like, there's a lot of obviously very good players on this list. Chet Holmgren's on that list, obviously. Stephon Castle, reigning Rookie of the Year. Like, Jalen Williams is high up on that list too.
Mm-hmm.
And I only bring all this up to just remind people he was in the 2022 draft and he's 24 years old. And he's already scoring 40 points in a finals game. That's remarkable. He is the youngest player to score 40 points in a finals game since Dwayne Wade in 2006.
That's crazy.
Crazy company.
That's crazy company. And like, even if you count, like, there are certain things like that where we haven't hit a point where it has become like saturated because of pace, where that still, I think, really, really says something.
Yeah, 40 points is still 40 points. Right?
Yeah, 40 points is still. We haven't hit a threshold where like we're getting more random 40-point games. It doesn't feel like as of yet. So I think that absolutely still means something. God, he. I also think the defensive part of him, I think, is also just so fascinating because like even if he had like remained kind of flawed offensively in this, we didn't see like the bag come out. This was going to be a guy that like you could just have. You're never going to have to take him off the floor for defensive purposes. Like, it was such a good find for Oklahoma City in a lot of ways to like have another guy like this in the system, just because it's like, okay, we have a two-way guy where like it fits our identity one way, and if we can bring the most of him the other way, which they're doing, great. And he's almost in some ways, and I might be just feeling come off the game, I almost feel like in some ways he's a harder guard for Indiana in this series. Because, like, Shea, it's like you have guys that are size-wise, like, you can throw at him, and he's always going to be your first read. But, like, they don't, like, even if it's Siakam or if they tried other stuff, it's like they don't have, like, there's not a great thing to just throw it at Jalen Williams and say, like, okay, we feel good about this in a one-on-one situation with how he's playing right now.
I mean, they haven't had an answer for either Shea or Jalen Williams.
No, but
he poked the ball away from, I think it was it Obi Toppin, and forced Obi Toppin into an over and back in the first half of Game 5.
Yeah.
And it was just like Obi Toppin didn't even have the ball showing. And it's just one of those plays where Jalen Williams with those long arms, 7-foot wingspan, is just making plays. And you've had in this game Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander making, swing plays on the defensive end. And so, yeah, when you say that, it's a unique way for them to, like, they never have to take their best players off the floor. You have the Knicks taking Jalen Brunson off the floor for offense, defense. Even the Pacers for periods will take Haliburton off the floor for defensive purposes.
Pretty much every team does it except the Thunder.
Mm-hmm. And it's why I think the finally, I think we have a worthy comp for the Jordan Pippen thing. This is as close as we've gotten ever to an actual Jordan Pippen. And I'm not saying that these guys are the next Jordan and Scottie Pippen, but just stylistically, in terms of the roles that they play, it is very much that. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does such a good Michael Jordan impression sometimes with the mid-range stuff, with the jump shot, his ability to just hit tough contested jumpers and long twos and all that kind of stuff. And then Jalen Williams is like, I mean, the guy, wasn't he was on all defense this year.
Yeah.
And he's doing that while scoring 20 plus points per game and 40 points in a finals. I don't know, man. This is, if they're gonna win the championship, right? It's either gonna be in 6 games or 7 games, but this thing's over. It's gonna be their first championship, and it doesn't feel like it's gonna be their last one.
No, I mean, I think they'll be the betting favorites next year. I think they have a long runway. I think with obviously how they've built this team and what Sam Presti has done. And I mean, SGA might not get like dramatically better, but you could tell me this pushes another evolution for J-Dub, and I still would believe there's one for Chet. And that those two guys alone is just like good luck.
There's definitely another level for Chet to go to. You see it sometimes, and he's so impactful just because he's so freaking talented and he's so tall and he's got great timing and stuff like that. But it kind of still looks weird when he's doing it. It doesn't always feel like he knows where he's exactly supposed to be. He's not as polished as Shai and Jalen Williams, right? Not even close.
No.
There's definitely another level for him to get to, and that's the scary part.
Do you think this ends in 6?
Yeah.
I do too. The Haliburton injury. I mean, the Haliburton injury thing is just even if he plays, you tell me someone's having an MRI on their calf. You're not.
Yeah, he either needs a new calf, or the only way I see the Pacers winning Game 6 is Haliburton comes out. He's going to be as fresh in the game. The freshest he'll be in the game is the beginning of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he comes out, maybe leads an initial push. You get a home crowd boost. Maybe the Pacers go up 10 or 12 or something in the first quarter, and then they're able to ride Siakam and maybe some hot shooting finally. Like Miles Turner has the reversion to the mean game everybody's been waiting for. Maybe Nembhard and Nesmith get going from 3. That would be the way where I think the Thunder, or the Pacers rather, can win the game, and then the Thunder kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit. But no, it's one thing to take your foot off the gas in like a Game 3. It's a different thing entirely to do it in Game 6 and risk having to play a Game 7, knowing that Game 7 is going to be played on your home floor and that you're the better team. You just never want to be in a Game 7 scenario. So I don't anticipate the Thunder relaxing in this game. I think they smell blood in the water, they go for the kill, and they win this series in 6 games.
Agreed. Let's talk about non-final stuff now, Wes.
Okay.
I'm actually we didn't end up getting to record right away after this Desmond Bane trade, and I'm kind of glad we didn't. Here's why. I got to like read and listen to a bunch of people talk about this, and I think I am lower on this trade than the consensus. I don't deny that the basketball fit for Orlando is great. I think like Bane. The more I've thought about that part of it, I think it's great. I understand if you look at the East next year and say, we're going for it. I can understand that. I think this is like way too much for Desmond Bane. I think in a world where we have what I think is going to be a hard cap, the aprons, trading away 4 picks for like a sub-fringe all-star guy who probably won't make an All-NBA team. You can't trade another one of your picks till 2032. It's like multiple election cycles from now. And you give up a pick swap. And it kind of just means that like the next thing, if you have to do something drastic next, you're resetting the whole thing around, and with trading one of Franz or Paolo, which to me what it feels like. Again, I get the need for playmaking. I'm sure they had other guys they were interested in, and like maybe I think Darius Garland, for instance, was not someone they were going to get, but I think would have been like a better fit for what I feel like they needed. I think 4 picks is just I think that price is way too high for Desmond Bane. Even if those picks are like later picks, I think in this environment I want to not. I could have done 3 in a swap, maybe like there's protection on something. It's just like 4 unprotected picks for that guy to me. You better get something really, really good results-wise out of it for it to be worth it. Otherwise, I think you're really, really making it hard to like build this roster beyond the short term.
Yeah, it's funny. You and I actually have the opposite reaction to this, where
Good.
at first I was like, oh my God. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of okay with it. Those picks aren't going to be good. The Phoenix one could be, right? That's probably going to be, let's assume that Phoenix pick is in the lottery next year. Okay. Even like, what would a lottery pick for Orlando mean for them next year? Of course, there is that chance that pick skyrockets the way that the Atlanta pick did 2 years ago and Dallas did this summer into the top of the draft. And then if you're Orlando, you're like, I kind of screwed that one up. But that is, I suppose, worth the risk, because anything other than that, Orlando doesn't need the 13th pick in another draft. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't help them. And the opportunity to move that pick expires in February, right? Like, it's so if you're Orlando, you're saying, okay, this is our best asset. It's kind of ticking in terms of when we're going to be able to trade it. Do we think anything better than Desmond Bane is going to be out there? And the thing about this Desmond Bane trade is Desmond Bane was not on the trade block. Nobody thought that this guy was available. But Orlando identified him as the missing piece and said, hey, what's it going to take? So they went out and sought Desmond Bane. So there's a belief in Orlando that he's the kind of guy that they want. And I think the basketball fit, it's like you said, there's been a million podcasts and things written about this. Everybody, on-ball creation gives you a little bit of that, but doesn't demand the ball. Still puts the ball in Franz and Paolo's hands.
Probably
defensively great. 41% three-point shooter.
Makes you less reliant on Suggs, which I think is just from an offensive standpoint. I think we know what his rough ceiling kind of is, and I think being less reliant on him is probably a good thing.
And defensively, you don't have to rely on him anymore as much either, because Bane is a good point of attack defender, and Suggs gets hurt a lot, right? And so if he's out, you still have a really strong defender at that spot. So that's where I sort of came down on it. It was, all right, these picks are probably not going to be that good if you're Orlando, and now's the time. It's definitely a bet on Paolo and Franz taking a leap. I'm okay with that bet. I feel good about those guys. I still think, by the way, that they have another move to make. Maybe 2 moves to make. I think that they need to replace Cole Anthony. They need another ball handler coming off the bench, kind of a 6-man type. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need another shooter in there somewhere. But I feel really good about where that roster is right now. And the thing I like about Desmond Bane, other than the basketball fit too, is the character thing. Like, spending a little bit of time around Orlando when they're in town, in Miami, it is very clear that they put a high priority on character stuff, on hardworking stuff. That locker room is like a college vibe. It's like a college atmosphere kind of thing. And Desmond Bane is going to come in. He's going to do the work. He's going to get along with everybody. And that stuff is just so important to Orlando. Like, every team says it's important. Orlando it's really important. And I bet the decision to move on from Cole Anthony, even though we look at him as sort of a throw-in in this trade, that was a lot harder for Orlando to do
this is a
than
great
I think
point.
people give it credit for. They loved Cole Anthony in Orlando. That was a hard thing for them to do. But the fact that they're getting Desmond Bane back in return, they wouldn't have just done that for anybody. Desmond Bane checks all the boxes for the Magic. And so I like the idea that they're going for it. But you're right. It is a lot of first-round picks. But if you're Orlando, you're not going to be a player in free agency. This cap, like, you're not even going to be able to have the flexibility within a couple of years to make a trade like this. So you sort of just do it now and then figure out the rest later.
I think the point you made about their environment, I think, feels right. Bane has always felt like someone who really has added to the Memphis environment. Like, when there's been issues there, he's never been someone whose name has really come up. I also think they probably needed to do this at some point. Like, we've kind of been asking for them to do this, I would say, right? Like,
Orlando?
I think, Orlando needed. And
I like this way more than like the Anthony Simons thing. I never was in on Simons for them.
If they would have given like Simons for like 1 first, I think would have been like fine, right? Like, I think I would have understood like that, because I think he is like a talent upgrade on like a Cole Anthony. Mm-hmm. But this is like another level above that, where it's like you give up real stuff for a guy that I do think is actually good and will play for you in the playoffs. This also feels like a team that I wonder if there's like a Wendell Carter trade where they try to get a more like traditional rim protecting, rim running kind of center in there.
Or a floor spacing type.
Or
if you can find one.
Yeah, if they can find one. Or just like something that is a little like more roll rigid than I think what you're getting from Wendell Carter.
I think that's a great call. I think you could look at that. I think you could look at maybe freeing up some more room for Goga Patazde to play potentially.
Yeah.
They still, I can't believe they were able to keep Anthony Black in this trade. I love Anthony Black. You've got now a 3-man guard rotation of Suggs, Bane, and Black. That's really strong two-way play. I think Anthony Black is going to eventually be a serviceable 3-point shooter. That's the big swing skill for him, obviously. But like I said, I think they need one more ball handler, 6-man-y type guy in there, and then I feel a lot better about their offense. But that's going to be the big thing. I think Desmond Bane is helpful. I don't know that he moves the needle enough offensively to the point where all of a sudden this is going to be one of the top 12 offenses in the league, which feels like where you need to be a serious contender. But if you can get somebody to stabilize that bench and you get a leap from Paolo and Franz and a full season of healthy basketball from them, obviously, yeah, maybe I could see how they might be the 12th best to 15th best offense with one of the best defenses, top 3 defenses in the league.
East. This is the teams in the East next year that I think are going to be pushing for that 1 seed, or at least pushing. Let's say not even just say 1. Let's just say like top 3 to 4, like teams in the thick of it that are going to be really good. Cleveland, Knicks, Pacers, Magic, Pistons. Is that the list?
Boston's going to be in the mix. They're not going to contender. They're still, even without, well, we'll see what happens with them. They're going to have to trade some guys. So put a pin in Boston.
Yeah.
Was this your team? This is your list of teams that are going to be like in the playoffs, or teams that can contend?
Teams pushing for like the top 3, because it's like Celtics.
I don't know that Detroit is there yet.
It's just like I'm just looking at the standings, and the top 7 was Cleveland, Boston, New York, Indiana, Milwaukee, Detroit, Orlando.
Philly will say, just wait until we get healthy.
I will never be optimistic about Philly again in for the next 10 years after picking them to make the finals this past year. I think the Celtics are just, it's hard to predict. And then are the Bucks really finishing 5th again if they just keep Giannis? I don't think so. So like, I think Orlando has to look at this and say, like, why not just throw gas on the fire and figure this out?
Yeah, I like Indiana, Cleveland, New York, Orlando. That seems about right to me. Top 4. Milwaukee, Detroit, Miami. Atlanta could be heard from.
I just think the East is open. And if you told me Orlando made the finals next year, I probably would be like, yeah, I think that seems possible.
They definitely have a shot at making the Eastern Conference Finals, for sure. I brought this up on Real GM Radio, but I'll tell you, like, my favorite next move for Orlando is Jonathan Isaac for Malik Monk.
Boy.
To me, Isaac is the guy that needs to get traded next.
What do you? This is also, I think, maybe my slight issue with all the firsts. I think Sacramento should ask for a first in that.
Sacramento should?
For Monk?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You need like something, I think, there to sweeten it, considering Isaac's injury history.
That's fair.
But I don't hate it. If you could do it, I would do it. It's just like, can you... Anthony Black, to your point, if he really developed, that would be the game changer. If he just clicked next year, that's kind of solves a lot of your issues, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like this on the Memphis side?
Going back to the locker room thing, it feels like that team is coming apart at the seams. I did a story on Memphis 2 or 3 years ago, and about how they kept managing to survive and win games when John Morant was serving his suspension. And the 2 players who kept coming up in my conversations with other players and people in that organization, in that locker room, were Tyus Jones and Desmond Bane.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those guys are no longer there. Those guys were rocks for that locker room, and both of them are gone. And John Morant, as talented as that guy is, would not consider him a rock in terms of locker room influence and atmosphere. Jaren Jackson Jr. is also not that guy. He's more on the quiet side. He's also got a big contract extension potentially coming up that could be a big deal for Memphis.
Yeah.
You got a new coach there. Taylor Jenkins obviously fired. I don't know who's in charge of that locker room anymore. Like Dylan Brooks is gone. And he was a loud voice in that locker room, for better or for worse, right? They got sick of him and moved him. But he was a big voice in that locker room. Desmond Bane was a rock in that locker room. Tyus Jones, respected leader in that locker room. Taylor Jenkins really had a pulse on that locker room for a long time until he didn't. He lost it, reportedly, and then they fired him. They moved on. I don't know who's in charge of that locker room anymore in Memphis. I really don't. And maybe Desmond Bane was never going to be the one answer there, and you might as well just move from him anyway. And I like that you get 4 first-round picks for him. Like that's great. That's great business. And now you've got that 2026 Phoenix pick and that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope salary. Can you move that somewhere? Like that's interesting to me. Marcus Smart was there. He's not there anymore. They had to use first-round picks to get off of him. It feels like that locker room has a massive leadership void right now, and I wonder if this is just a step into tearing the whole thing down and starting from scratch.
I mean, I think they look at the West and I think rightly are like,
what are we gonna do here?
What like why try? You know, and I don't think that's unrealistic. Last year was pretty tough, kind of like a paper tiger for most of the year. And then you watch what the Thunder are. You know the Spurs are coming. The Lakers have LeBron and Luka. Jokic still exists. Durant might end up somewhere in the West. The Rockets are poised to keep getting better and better. Like where the Magic, I think, saw like a opening, Memphis was like, we maybe missed the window a little bit.
I wonder if you could get the same thing for Desmond Bane for Ja Morant.
I wonder.
Better player.
Better player, more
Way more
concerns.
questions.
Way more questions. Or like you're almost turning over the franchise to him in a way that you're not with Bane because he's not a super duper star.
Right.
And doesn't have the rep of one.
Right.
I also wonder if they might be a team that one of those first round picks becomes like a lottery ticket for like a star that might be a quote unquote star that's kind of ill-fitting us, or like should they just call and say like we'll give you 1 or 2 of these picks for Zion? Not that that's really helping what you've outlined with the locker room, but it's like just make a talent bet and see if you could figure it out.
I don't think that they should go in that direction. I almost either you're building around Jaren Jackson Jr. and Ja Morant as your 2-man game, pick and roll, pick and pop stuff. You've got Zach Edey there. You got Jalen Wells there. Like, there's pieces I like. I'm a big Vince Williams guy. Gigi Jackson's kind of fun.
There's a lot of some of the stuff I read in this was that they're like excited that Jalen Wells can now play the 2 because Bane's gone. It's like he could play his actual position.
I'm glad that was the biggest problem in Memphis.
I just thought that I always love those little like leaks. So like, here's this guy that we know everyone knows is good, but like this was really about him, and it's like, was it though?
I could go both ways here. I could either go, all right, we got Ja, we got Jaren Jackson Jr., we got a bunch of first-round picks. Let's take some swings in the draft. Let's build around these guys. Hope that we get a better Ja Morant season, a healthier Ja Morant season. Maybe we can explore trading him down the line, but Ja, Jaren, that works for me. Or go the other way, trade both. Jaren Jackson Jr. has this big contract, and he's got some say in this. He could try to enter free agency in 2026 when some of these teams have more cap space and just decline the extension. And, Bane's gone, Jenkins is gone. If he looks around and says, I don't know, do I want to continue my career in Memphis? Maybe not. You never know. He could look around and say, you know what, I'm good. I don't want to sign the contract extension. Let's wait until next summer. And if that's the case, then Memphis almost has to explore trading him. Could you do that and then just wait for the right Ja Morant trade to come down? It kind of feels like they're in the same spot that the Hawks were with Trae Young for a couple of years, where they kind of wanted to trade him, but there was just never the right package out there that was worth pulling the trigger on it.
Which now feels like the Trae market has entirely cooled based on everything you read about that. It's like he's not even anywhere you don't hear him anywhere in trade rumors anymore. He's just kind of out of it. And I do wonder what's the right fit for Ja even? Like who is like, it's hard to know this offhand, Wes, without us like really thinking about it, but like if a team were to trade for him, who's Miami?
Miami makes some sense, right? I don't, Ja Morant, Miami, not sure that that's exactly what they want to be doing. especially they don't have a ton of stuff, so it would kind of just be all the stuff that they would have to move. And I don't. Maybe they make it as a talent play. Would Chicago do it as a hey, we've got Kobe White, we'll trade you him and some other things for a major upgrade there? Would Toronto do it? They're always willing to make kind of a big swing. Would Brooklyn look at Ja Morant and just say, we can kind of get a star in here?
Brooklyn one I could actually really get behind, I think.
Yeah, right?
More than the Toronto one, because I just don't really understand what Toronto's doing at all.
I'm with you. Yeah, you start going through the teams like Sacramento, I could see doing it. Yeah.
Sacramento absolutely would do it, I think.
So there's some teams that could talk themselves into Ja Morant for sure. Yeah.
All right. So then on this, Kevin Durant. Brian Windhorst has said, sorry to aggregate you, Brian, but said there's possibility Durant could stay, basically outlining if the offers aren't there for the Suns, that they could elect to keep him. That's the worst idea, right? Like, that's just a horrible idea for everybody.
Yes. This is all leverage. It's all leverage. You've got the Suns over here asking for apparently what they gave up for Kevin Durant. This is buying a used car, putting 80,000 miles on the used car and trying to sell it back to the dealership for what you bought it for. It doesn't make sense. But that's where the Suns are, and I understand they're trying to do leverage and all this stuff. They're having conversations. But their price is so high that they've basically turned San Antonio away. Sounds like Houston isn't all that interested anymore. Kevin Durant obviously has some say in this in terms of like he doesn't want to play in Minnesota, so he's not going to sign long term there. How many teams are actually willing to take that risk anyway without Durant's long term commitment? I think that's a major factor in all of this stuff. Yeah, you can't bring him back. You can't bring him back. We're done here. Durant doesn't want to be back. You bring him back, he'll force his way out. You're just going to have to do this and get even less in return. Trust me, I know how this works.
This is one of the worst. Like, I get it's leverage. I get every team is probably laughing about this. He has to be playing somewhere else. Like, if you run into next year, even independent West of the basketball part of this, from like a purely like business standpoint, if you tell your fans next year, hey, get excited, we're running back, but with a new coach, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, why are you doing as a franchise at that point? You might as well just like give everyone free tickets. Because like there's no reason for anyone to get excited about that. It's already going to be hard, I think, to be excited. I think if you're a Suns fan in the short term, that is just like a kick to the nuts of like you're not even trying to do anything and move forward.
Yeah, it's almost in a weird way you have to take less on your return because look, they're not going to get. We know we kind of have a good sense of what the offers are on the table right now for Kevin Durant. They're just trying to drum up offers.
I think they really seem to want like a team to come in that's not on that list. To come in and give them something maybe crazy for Durant.
I think how they need to, yeah, but then Durant can't put the kibosh on it the way that he did with Minnesota.
And it's been such a messy process for him in that they keep talking about how Durant is, like they're working with Durant this time, like they're trying to like save face on a little bit. So like they almost like can't take the
right.
He doesn't want to go to, you can't
do Damian Lillard to Milwaukee here.
You can't do like, hey, the Raptors keep being floated as a team. You can't really send him there because he's going to be miserable about it. And it's going to make you look like shit.
What the Suns have done as an organization is try to make Bradley Beal miserable and then openly shop one of the greatest players we've ever seen against his wishes before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Kind of last minute feeling.
Yeah.
If you're a star player, what the Suns have to do, they can't look at this and say, hey, we need this kind of value for Kevin Durant. They got to look at this the way that the Clippers walked away from Paul George and just say, look, we're going to walk away from Paul George. We're not going to get any value back from him, obviously, because he's a free agent. But this gives us flexibility. It gives us flexibility to do X, Y, and Z. And that's really what the Suns need here is the flexibility part of it. Mm-hmm. Move on from Durant, get under that second apron, create some flexibility so that you can make other moves on the margins, and then maybe be better for it and empower Devin Booker to be the star player and then just try to fill out the rest of the roster with competent players around him because last year that wasn't the case. So the Suns are trying to get everything that they want out of this, but they're not negotiating from a position of strength right now. And they're trying to create that leverage, but they're not going to get it.
They're also you're throwing your new head coach a hand grenade. You're pulling the pin out of a hand grenade, holding it for as long as you can before throwing it, and then throwing it and then shutting the door on Jordan Knott before the day even starts if you let Kevin Durant hang around.
Yeah.
And it's not a slight on Durant. It's just like you're making his job a bajillion times harder for no reason.
Yeah, the toothpaste is out of the tube on Durant. You got to trade him. You lost leverage. You put a going out of business sign, everything must go outside your franchise door, and now you're trying to charge full price? Like, it doesn't work that way.
It's great stuff. Only the best organizations would do anything like this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Matt Ishbia is doing a lot. It's very funny that him and someone pointed this out to me, so I can't even take credit for this point. But it's very funny that him and Dan Gilbert have a lot of beef, and he's doing a lot of things Dan Gilbert would have done when he bought the Cavs in like 2004 and 2003 in that era, when he first took over from Gordon Gund.
Great call.
It's exactly the same thing. It's every new owner kind of sucks at this, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, let's remember, he traded for Durant within 24 hours of taking the seat as owner. Like, this is a guy who walked in and was like, I know the secret to the NBA.
And it's get Kevin Durant on my basketball team.
Yeah, it's get star
talent.
players. And everybody's like, no, we knew that you needed star. Like, everybody, we knew that.
Yeah.
The hard part was getting him. And he's like, what do you mean? I just got Kevin Durant. It's like, well, you traded half the roster and all your picks for him. Like, we all could have done that.
Yeah, and it's like you also traded for Durant, like, still very good, but like post Achilles tear, post Brooklyn fiasco, like on the deeper into his 30s.
And and this isn't even revisionist stuff. Even at the time, everybody's like, "Wow, that's a lot."
Yeah, good stuff.
Yep.
We're gonna get over 2.5 trades between now and the end of the draft on Thursday, Wes. Next week.
Oh, yeah, I would probably say
three
more,
and a half,
more
three
than
and a half,
that.
4.5.
Yeah, I mean, if we're including like just draft pick stuff or not, like player trades.
I think we're getting like 2.5. Yeah, I'm gonna say like 2.5, 3.5 player trades. That's where
Yeah,
I
but yeah, 2.5 feels like a good over.
I think we're gonna get at least one that we're just like, it's like the Bane thing came out of nowhere. It wasn't quite like on the Luka scale, obviously. Like the Luka scale was like a 10 out of 10 on the shot
Sure.
scale. Was this like a 7, a 6, 6.5?
I mean, if Luka's a 10, this is probably like a 5.
Yeah, but it still was just like, I think we're gonna get something like that where we don't know that we're not getting like any trickles, and then it's just like Tyler Hero went for 6 first-round picks.
Okay.
You hooked me in on a pod, by the way, with could he go for 4 first-round picks? That's what I'll be listening to when we're done here.
There we go.
I have that locked and ready to go. Locked on Heat. Check that out. But if you haven't already, subscribe and review to the Just Basketball Show twice a week, covering all things hoops. Back after Game 6, probably the end of the 2024-2025 NBA season. That's what I think where we're headed. Oklahoma City Thunder, NBA champs. We'll talk to you then. Have a great week. Enjoy the hoops. We'll talk to you soon.